It's an honor to host you. I loved our conversation that we had before. It's already been 2 years, if you can believe it or not, that your latest book has come out. And yeah, just looking it up yesterday, it's still a #1 Amazon bestseller. So congratulations. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
How long did it take you to write that book? I know you co-authored this last one. How long did it take you to come up with all the ideas, lay everything out, and get everything written?
Well, Lisa and I had been thinking about writing this book for a while. We were actually like book writing buddies when she was writing her first book, The Fifth Vital Sign, and I was writing my second book, Real Food for Pregnancy. So we kind of had developed a pretty similar style of how we like write and research and write and research. Um, But yeah, we'd been dreaming about this for a while, but from start to finish, we're looking at least 3 years. It was really quite a time-consuming process, and if you've looked through the book, it's a pretty long book, and we have over like I kind of laugh when I hear, yeah, Real Food for Pregnancy has over 900 citations. This has well over 2,300 citations, so it's just like a beast of a book. Um, yeah, it was a long process, much longer. It took much longer to write than my other books, for sure.
That's kind of why I wanted to ask you the question, because it is such a big book. It's about 6 inches away from my head right now, and I just checked it. It's over 500 pages. So it is quite thick and very, very informative. You guys did a wonderful job doing it. I'm just curious to know, like, from the feedback and stories that you've gotten, are there any like really inspirational stories of somebody that, found this information and really was helped by it?
Yeah, we actually, I put together a blog article covering some of people's like top pieces of feedback, and we were really surprised that the success stories started coming in so soon after the book was published, knowing that, fertility really is a reflection of your overall health. So sometimes it takes a bit of time for the body to respond and for your hormones to respond. Like, I didn't think we would get any groundbreaking feedback until at least 6 months with it on the market. But it was like month one, hey, I like my long-standing primary and hypothalamic amenorrhea, meaning a woman who had never gotten her cycle before, like I got my cycle for the first time. I was like, I don't know how that's possible because you've only had like a month to incorporate the information. Like, wow. So we've had some crazy ones. We've had plenty of success stories on hypothalamic amenorrhea. So that's when you like don't have a cycle at all. We've had a lot of success stories with PCOS, so normalizing ovulation, normalizing the cycle, helping with insulin resistance and weight loss. We've had some really crazy ones with pretty long-standing infertility. We've had some women who reported, they've been trying to conceive for over 10 years and been through, multiple rounds of failed IVF. And again, within like a couple of months of incorporating the advice in there, like suddenly this unexplained infertility has resolved itself. I mean, really some truly miraculous stories. So I do have a blog article. I think it's called something like Fertility Success Stories if you want to read through some of the specifics, but it's been really really cool and humbling to hear how much of an impact it's made.
That's incredible. It's so cool to have, the practical information and go through all the science and the citations and everything. But when the rubber meets the road on the ground, and you start to hear those stories. That's where it really makes such an impact. So I absolutely love that. So thank you for sharing. I was kind of going through your website recently, which is, you do a great job on your website, kind of presenting information. The blog is there, which is really good. And I found something that I thought was really interesting and could provide a really cool framework for our discussion today. I know you've done tons of different podcasts. I don't think you've ever covered exactly this. I'll be a little disappointed if you've already done this before, but I thought this would be fun to not only get to know you a little bit better, but also get a lot of like really cool practical information and maybe tie in your story to where you are today and how you think things and see things today. So for us to go through this, we'll get through as many of these as we can, but this is called on your website, 10 Fun Facts and Why I'm Not Your Typical Dietitian. So again, I
Ah,
thought this might be an interesting thing to kind of go through and again, tie in your own personal story, how you think about things, how your thinking has evolved maybe. And we'll just go 1 through 10. We'll get through as many as we can in an hour. But let's start with the first one. I have the skills to count calories and track macros, but I make the informed choice to opt for mindful eating instead. I love the topic. It's kind of a hot topic these days, mindful eating or intuitive eating. And I think I don't know how to say this. I think most people get the idea that if they're eating mindfully or eating intuitively, they might be. I know if I was eating intuitively, I would intuitively eat a bunch of ice cream and pie or something. You know what I mean? So, how have you evolved your thinking around tracking things like calories and macros? And what do you mean when you say mindful eating?
All right. Yeah. And it's a good question because there's some context and nuance here. I put out a post, I think it was on my Instagram at some point that said something to the effect of you don't have to track your macros. And I tried to clarify in the caption that I didn't mean it's wrong to ever track your macros or nobody should ever track your macros. I mean, I help teach my clinicians in the Institute for Prenatal Nutrition precisely how to track all these things and run a full nutrient analysis on a client's diet history. Like there's a time and a place for tracking. And I've certainly done that, before. My thing is I think there's some like general nutritional common sense that can coexist with the framework of mindful eating. In that I know for myself from some self-experimentation, I tend to feel best eating a more protein-forward diet. Fewer carbohydrates, but not none. I don't really do well doing full keto. I've experimented with that as well, right? So somewhere that's like protein forward, the least processed foods possible, especially when I'm cooking myself and it's not like a restaurant. You can't really control the variables in a restaurant, but like a whole foods protein forward diet, I do great on. And when I eat in that way, it helps so much with blood sugar stability, and I've seen this from experimenting with the CGM in the past, that often things like these crazy cravings that you have for processed foods or whatever, those actually go away over time. It's not that I can never indulge, but I don't have as much of a need to when I'm starting from like a well-nourished, blood sugar balanced place. So I'm not a person who has like a food scale and measures everything out to make sure I'm hitting exactly a certain amount. Maybe occasionally I'll want to do a check-in. Hey, how much protein am I eating in a day and track something for a short period of time. But it's just to inform, how to feel my best versus using counting and numbers to just obsessively take control over your whole life. And I see a lot of people get like to this extreme level of macro tracking. Well, if it fits your macros, or hey, maybe you're counting your calories and you're like, I have an extra 150 calories left. Okay, I guess I get a treat tonight. Like, how do we really know if your body truly needs exactly the same amount of calories every single day? Like my belief, and especially if you're an active person, like it's in flux based on your activity levels or all sorts of other complex metabolic factors. So I find that like leaning into how my body feels and leaning into hunger and fullness cues, and still, of course, incorporating nutritional common sense of like eating as much, whole foods as possible, and as few processed and ultra processed foods, I'm able to feel pretty good, maintain my weight, keep my energy levels up without having to count anything.
Yeah.
So that's what I personally do. That doesn't mean that there's not a time and a place for tracking. There's certainly people, especially when they're working with a nutritionist or dietitian or coach, like there may be a time and a place where you do actually want to track as a check-in. Like a lot of people way underestimate or overestimate amounts of different things they're eating. And so sometimes it's helpful to have that kind of feedback of portion sizes and whatnot. But as a long-term strategy, the goal really should be learning sort of like patterns in which you can eat that give you flexibility so you don't have to be so obsessive about things.
Yeah, I love that. I spent most of my career working on a metabolic cart and showing people what their metabolic rates were. And even that, being fairly accurate, is based on so many different assumptions. You're talking about all the different metabolic processes that are going on. And then you think about also on the other end, what you're tracking. Like, are you really trusting MyFitnessPal or whatever is going to know exactly that your apple is the same apple that you put in this tracker? Like, it's unknowable. It's an unknowable problem on both ends. And my next question to you was going to be, when is it justified for somebody to to track. And you just gave us a few examples there. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, I totally agree. It's not my go-to, but for somebody who's really unaware or thinks they're getting, 120 grams of protein when really they may only be getting like 50 grams of plant-based protein or something like that. Like I
Absolutely.
think tracking can really, really help. So I appreciate that.